Aisling,
Hi,
how you doing?
I'm good.
Thanks for coming into the lab.
You're welcome.
I know this is not what you do on the daily.
No?
What was it? Our last midwife appointment, which has been with you, I think, every single time in this journey.
Yeah.
Which has been awesome. I thought to myself, I'd love, because I sit in the background and kind of nod along and try not to get too involved because obviously it's not about me, but I like being there. It's been really fun to do the sessions together. But I thought, actually, I'd love to have a chat with you and see last week or two, if there's things I should be thinking about.
Any prep?
Yeah. How many people do you think you've seen give birth?
I've been doing this since 2009, maybe.
Okay, so like 15 years or more.
So I did support worker before this, then I was a student midwife, so you have to do all your births with student midwife, and then worked on labour ward and now doing community. So I don't know, in all honesty.
Well, that's a lot though. I mean, do you get one a week or something?
Births?
Yeah.
No, so I do community now. So
Okay.
we look at, so I kind of see you through the journey, do all the antenatal care, and then do the postnatal. I used to work on labour ward. But on labour ward, you only look after women in labour for your 12.5-hour shift.
Okay, so you've done the bit where you're literally pulling the baby out, and now you just do the process like you've been doing with us, which is guiding us every 6 weeks or something.
It's quite sparse at the beginning, isn't it? We have that really long chat at the beginning, and then it's 2 weekly after about 32 weeks.
Yeah, and do you prefer it now or?
I prefer seeing everyone through the journey. You get more of a connection, I think, rather than just seeing someone for 12.5 hours.
Yeah.
You don't get the night shifts as well. So
Yeah.
that's quite nice. And it's quite nice to see people through. I see you after as well. So I see you once baby's here and see you through the first stages of being a parent, which is ever approaching, isn't it?
So how long, if all's well, if all's healthy, how much longer will we see you for then? Another 6 months or something, or?
Oh no, 28 days after a baby's born, and then and then it's health visitor. So then you get to see the GP, you get to see the health visitor. So after 28 days, I'm not much help. I don't know what to do. But for those first bit, we're around.
Okay. Well, the first thing to say is the reason I thought it'd be nice to talk is because we really loved those conversations with you. And as you say, they're sparse and then they get more regular, but they've made a big difference. And I know made a big difference to Chloe. So that kind of service, if you like, feels amazing and you do it really, really well. So I'm really appreciative for what you do.
You're
I think
very
it's
welcome.
amazing. And yeah, I guess I'm just thinking as a dad who wants to be present, that's why I got this space down the road. But I want to be, a good protector. But I don't want to be that just a classic protector bloke. I also want to be active and engaged as best I can without like interfering with. Chloe is the primary caregiver and the milk and unless it's bottle, but still it feels like in this first year especially, she's the primary caregiver. Are there things that pop to mind about men that you've seen in the journey, whether they're dads or not, but men that are in that inner circle where you think that was a mistake or that was really good?
I think it's finding out how to support and asking how you need to support rather than assuming, because you'd be used to fixing situations or helping or kind of supporting in your own way, and sometimes it's asking.
Is there a bit around it that's about leadership as well? One thing is listening and asking what do you want, but if the brain's gone and the exhaustion's there, it's sort of...
There's elements of, I think, gatekeeping. So there's elements of if people want to visit, when do they want to visit, who wants to visit, and kind of protecting that space. So I think protector is in you're keeping that safe space. And if that is lots of people being there, or if that's no one being there, or if that's just protecting time when she can sleep, that's really important. And that's why we've been talking about when and what time is baby awake and kicking the most.
Yes.
And when...
Which is basically all the time.
Yeah. But when are we likely to get sleep? If people turning up at 9 o'clock in the morning to come and visit because they're really eager to see everyone, and actually that's the time that baby sleeps the most. That's kind of gatekeeping, and there's elements where you're going to have to get enough sleep because you're going to have to keep everyone alive and keep things ticking over. That could be that you sleep at night time and then during the day you take over and protect her space to be able to sleep then during the day, or to keep them both fed.
And some of that I can talk to Chloe about now, but some of it she will only find out when she's in it, depending on what little Bubs is like. And also some of it might be intuitive from me, which isn't always natural for blokes to be intuitive and trust their little radars for things. But there's a bit of that too, probably.
Yeah, and I think it's seeing what works for both of you.
A lot of men do sort of a week to 3 weeks of paternity and then go back. And it sort of seems that there's a bit of a potential cliff there where I think, and I'm wondering if you've heard the same, that women find it quite hard at that 3 week point because they're kind of not through that really challenging first period, and their support and guarding system has just gone pew out the window. And probably the bloke in a lot of cases is desperate to get back to work, to some, talking about comfort zones before as we were turning this on, is this your comfort zone or not? Like, get back to their comfort zone of, I know what to do when I'm at my desk, I know how to make the money. I've been thinking about doing sort of 3 weeks 90 to 100% off, and then another 3 weeks where I'm kind of half day on and half day off. And part of the reason for this space is to have it separate from the house, because I've often worked London and Brighton, halfway in between, and at home, whereas I'm trying to create that separation. I just guess I'm wondering any thoughts you might have seen where things have worked or not worked for people around how they've designed paternity as that support.
So I think we realise how important it is to be around. Paternity's getting longer in some people have 6 months off, some people have a couple of weeks off, sometimes like you're able to kind of have longer.
Some people share it, don't they?
Some people share it, and I think it depends on feeding journeys as well with sharing it. There's elements of it being quite scary when dads go back to work, but it's also an opportunity for mums to find their new normal and find out their new way of life. And there's elements of you being off and being around all the time that isn't normal.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's then when you can kind of, you find a rhythm. So Chloe will find a rhythm. She'll find out what baby group she's going to, what her day looks like without that.
Found that a bit already with her stopping work. She was looking forward to stopping work and having space and, you know, less busyness and stuff. And then actually out of that, I think she's now realised, I think it's fair to say that Chloe loves to go and see one person a day. Do you know what I mean? And today she's popped off to see a friend and popped to see my mum, and that'll do her though. She doesn't need loads, but that is a new rhythm, let's say, that she's found, having extracted herself from the old work paradigm.
Yeah, and you have to kind of find that, and there has to be elements of you going back to work to find that.
Let's talk about the pre-bit then. We've packed the bag, and I've been involved in packing the bag so that I supposedly know where stuff is in the bag, and there's a baby bag and there's the Chloe bag, and you know, I'm building my playlist, which is what I'm in charge of, and I haven't done as much prep with her about like positions on the ball and stuff to try and give her like relief in the process. But we're getting the TENS machine today, and I'm going to learn how that works as chief TENS administrator.
Tennis balls are good as well.
Yeah, we've got a few balls, not quite a tennis ball, but like stress balls.
So tennis balls, so sometimes counter pressure can be quite good. Whereas if you have to do counter pressure with your thumbs for 18 hours, your thumbs feel like they're falling off.
I've got plenty of tennis balls.
Yeah, little tennis balls for counter pressure, and you can massage with those as well. It can be good. Okay.
Yeah, because it becomes a very sensory experience, doesn't it? It's all about the smells. And even, what was it, the one aromatherapy thing that can actually bring on labour before you're ready. And it's actually like, not dangerous, but kind of got to be careful.
So clary sage is one of them. Right. So it's like essential oils.
Yeah.
And then all the midwives in labour on the birth centre can then do a little bit of a mixture of oils that you can then smell throughout the labour that can help. So lavender, clary sage, there's quite frankincense is quite another one.
It's interesting though, because in the modern life where it's all about the mind and, you know, digital and the mind and all that stuff, almost sensory things become like just superfluous little extras that are just nice touches to have. But actually in the world of giving birth and in the world of a midwife and a birthing person, it's properly the core, because that sort of all the mental rational thinking kind of connects to me to like the male way of doing things. But you sort of live inside this world where actually that sensory, how it smells, how it looks, how it tastes, is all like fundamental to having as smooth as possible a journey.
you're not supposed to be rationally thinking when you're in labour.
That's what I mean. It's that world is
So
sort of gone.
And you have to do that. There's elements of having to tune out, because if you're making decisions, if you're kind of trying to consider information, if you're doing that then interrupts the hormones that then control your contractions. But there's so much about labour we don't understand. We only understand a portion of that. And so there's lots of different things, smell, kind of sensory experiences that then support labour.
So labour, I mean, this is 101, right? But I just think what you've said is really interesting. So like labour is fundamentally about good, strong contractions and surviving that process, because it's the contractions that push with some active pushing, but kind of that's what brings the baby out, basically, in a good scenario. But those contractions are induced because of the hormones that get secreted and tell the muscles it's time to go.
Yep.
And those hormones are in some part stimulated by sensory stuff.
Yeah.
By feeling. I don't know how that all works, but it shows how important the sensory stuff is, because it connects then to the hormones, which connect to the muscles that make the baby come out.
Because even things like, so you can be in early labour and you can come into the hospital and then you suddenly have a big rush of stress hormones, so cortisol, which stop all contractions. So you have lots and lots of contractions at home and things are happening and you think this is it. You get into hospital and suddenly they all stop. And
because you're not comfortable, because it's different sounds, smells, tastes.
Stress. For me, or maternity is home from home, but for other people it's sometimes the first time you've been in hospital or kind of been in that environment, and that's really stressful. Those stress hormones stop labour completely, and then we have to send you home and wait for labour to kind of start again. There becomes a point where that stops and contractions will continue to take over. I think we've talked about like birth preferences. You have to have that plan A and that plan B, because your plan and your idea of how this is all going to go may not necessarily be the plan your baby is cooking up.
Because really control is a huge word in this whole thing, isn't it? And we all hate uncertainty.
Yeah.
Some like a little bit of it for adventure and good stories. But the reason adventure and good stories come from uncertainty is because fundamentally we all desperately try to avoid it.
Yep.
And our brains love model making, and babies, as you know, young people love consistency. We all do. Yet this is a process fundamentally that we just cannot control. So I wonder to what extent trying to be in control is a helpful or unhelpful concept when there's maybe an element that it's about surrender at the same time.
And I think that's why we talk about preferences, and we have our plan A and we have our plan B.
Yes.
And we've done our plan A as everything's going perfectly, and our plan B that everything goes completely wrong. But how do we support you in that journey, I think is the main crux of everything. Because if you're supported through that and you're supported to make decisions and you're supported to process the information or what's happening, then you tend to have quite a positive outcome. It's worse whenever we're trying to plan, and sometimes when we plan and then it goes wrong, we fail, and we haven't failed in any of this because we can't plan any of it. But that process is quite scary.
So I don't know what it's like to be a woman, but as a bloke and as a guy coming into being a dad, I want to protect, I want to, in that sense, control our environment, i.e. the perimeter of our environment, from danger. I don't need to control what's in the environment, just to control the in and out of danger. In this process, we're not the centre of it. We are the supporter, at most the coach in moments where we're like, come on, you know. A dad who might seek to, okay, well, I can't control it, so I'm going to sit back, might end up becoming very passive at the same time. You know, that's the other end of the spectrum. I don't want to be wet and just passive and just sort of just sitting on the edge doing nothing. And I guess that's kind of the question is, how do you be as active, as supportive and encouraging as possible, whatever the right things are. But
there could also be elements where, and it's hard to do as a birth partner, is do nothing. And surrender to doing nothing. Because even as in terms of support and what she needs, that could be doing nothing and literally just being there, and that's enough kind of support. And it's scary not being able to do anything. It's funny because you don't know this, but I went off grid and lived in the woods for a while, and
I was all very happy with all of that in there. That all made a lot of sense. But in the context of a white room like this, and my wife and my child, it does feel scary again.
Really scary.
It does feel like because I like to be a man of action. I like to prove that I'm caring, all the values I might care about. I like to do something about it to prove that. I guess maybe there's a piece of trusting that my presence is enough in the room, or maybe just outside the room if that's what she wants, but somewhat in the vicinity.
And you're probably used to fixing things as well. So if she's not feeling well, finding pain relief. If she's not feeling well, making her food. If she's not feeling well, giving her a hug. And it's really difficult. And it's, I think, quite scary as a birth partner not being able to do anything to help. Because even things like touch and kind of kisses and hugs and a go-to to make someone feel better is the last thing she may want. Or being able to help and give things that you would normally do. There's none of those, and it's quite scary to be a birth partner, having been one, and not being able to do anything to help. And there's elements of surrendering that and saying, just being here, and finding different ways that you can support her. So I think doing things, we've kind of looked at hypnobirthing and ways that you can support that don't necessarily look like how you've previously done that. So it's saying the affirmations, having the music, and just being there can sometimes be what you need to be, which is difficult to surrender not helping or fixing or
it's
letting someone else do it, which is normally the midwives who come in with gas and air.
Yeah, it feels hard even in this conversation, to be honest, because I have loads of conversations with loads of people about loads of different subjects, but this I realise that it's just funny standing on this precipice knowing that within a week or two I will be going through said. And the closest thing I can bring it to, honestly, is like big public speaking that I've done. It's where you know the event's coming, you know there's going to be 2,000 people there, you know you kind of putting your story together, and you think you've learned it, but you could always learn it a bit more. The difference is I've got no experience of this moment, and fundamentally I'm in a different role and yet it's still a massive moment for me.
It's massive.
Like, my wife is at risk, my baby's at risk, like, we just want her home and them both home. But we've got
you've got to do the process, and I think trust other people as well to take care of them, which is something that you will have done, and trusting midwives that come in, or trusting doctors that come in if they need to come in, trusting that process.
How do you think I best prepare myself then as the birthing partner, as the dad?
You've done a lot of it already, going to the birthing classes, attending the appointments, I think connecting with them both.
If our appointments are anything that represent the kind of style I'm taking, did you notice anything about me being not engaged or too engaged in the conversations?
No, you're involved. It's not.
Okay.
So you want to know where baby is, you want to know the position.
I like having a feel when it's...
And we kind of do that. I kind of show you where baby is, and we feel where baby is, so you can kind of understand the kind of position or where baby is.
I felt quite included by that as well, because it would be quite easy to feel quite inferior as the bloke there, because it is, as we say, one of the only offices of intuition, like basically women are typically stronger at than men. So you could have been great, but still sort of alienated me a bit and made me feel like I'm just a bit thick in that way, in that particular way. So I appreciate that, definitely.
But you guys are a unit, and actually you're both welcoming a baby. So I think elements of that is you both have to do elements together, or even just understanding, be able to ask questions together rather than just one person. When it's one person going into it and one person doing the birthing preferences, when it's one person packing the bag, when it's one person prepping for something that two people have to welcome a baby into. It's been refreshing sometimes that you've been involved, because we don't always see it, I think. To give yourself grace, because you're probably going to be scared throughout all of this, and you're probably going to hate it. In terms of giving up, I think, elements of freedom, control and things. And I think in terms of labour, giving up elements of trusting other people to look after what you want to be able to do for your family, and to give yourself grace and be scared and be okay with that.
Mm.
And I think that's where you communicate with the midwife that's looking after you. That to support you as well, because actually you're thinking about just supporting them, and there's elements it's what we do as midwives is to support you both and as a family, and to be okay with being scared. I think
I like that. Obviously don't like it, but do like it. It's got to be one of the most interesting rooms in the world to be in, a birthing room, like, because it matters so much, and you've got all these different things going on, the birth partner, the birthing person, the midwife, and how many other people? A couple of others in the room or something?
So if everything goes well, then it's just the midwife.
Okay.
And when things are actually happening, so baby's about to come out, there'll be another midwife in the room. And then they will leave once the baby is out and everything is fine. So really, as long as everything is low risk and it's all birth centre, then potentially 2 midwives. If anything changes, there's an emergency situation, or it's however many people turn up to an emergency if there is one, or if they needed extra help, it's as many hands as we need until we don't need them anymore.
So I think what you've said to me is be good at listening to what Chloe wants. Get comfortable with my presence being enough and not feeling the need to do anything without the former point. And
be okay with not being okay with that, because then when you get home, that's when you then kind of take over that role.
I see, yeah.
And be okay being scared in it as well.
And possibly a third item around the trust then with the team in the room, whether that's that one midwife or 2 or 3 people or whatever, if it gets more complicated. Pretty deep stuff, actually, when you start getting into birthing and the dynamics that go with it. So I'm really glad we had this chat.
Yeah. Am I scared?
Huh?
You look more scared than when we started.
I do, but it's all, but not in a bad way. No, there's nothing disconcerting about what you're saying. It's just with every step and every conversation you have with us, and every birthing, whatever antenatal class that we've gone to, and you just get one step closer to that moment. You know,
it feels a bit more real, I think, every time that we have an appointment.
Exactly.
Because we're now getting to the point where I say, maybe I'll see you next appointment, maybe I won't.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it starts with scheduling the year, when's Chloe stopping working, then it's painting the walls, then it's building the cot, then it's packing the bag, and you're sort of delayering the onion all the way to the central moment that we're now sort of mentally getting into. What does that actually, how am I actually going to be in that moment?
Awaiting signs of labour, I think now, isn't it?
Which is basically contractions. That's the main thing. The main thing. Contractions, yep. All right. Well, maybe see you on the other side.
We'll definitely see you on the other side.
Cheers. Cheers for everything.